I am Batman! Famous lines from a famous actor who sadly passed away yesterday. You know, I remember watching reruns of Batman animated series. My gosh, that series beautiful. I loved how it showed mental health representation when I was struggling with social anxiety and depression and an abusive father issues and other abusive relationships as well. And I remember watching the Batman and just loving how it's representing beautifully told story of how all this toxicity, all this abuse, or guilt or grief can really confine a person through mental illness, of depression and anxiety, and social issues, and how Batman is using this doppelganger life to cope with his loss, with his issues of his society, of him seeing his Gotham, beloved Gotham that his family built, the Wayne Industries built from underground and helps people, when also finding out that his father and his mother were corrupt and doing corruption and doing some illegal things to make things right, just like in the movie The Batman was showcasing, which honestly that was also was musically entertained by the guy who also directed Werewolf by Night on the Marvel Halloween special. Aside from that, the storytelling of the villains from the mental health perspective showed and demonstrated a toxicity to how treating yourself with mental illness can be bad, demonstrating to children how it can be bad. And the Batman was fighting that side, was fighting those sides, that toxicity, those toxic police cops, the criminals in the Arkham Asylum, the mental institution, the side of mental illness that has a corruption side to it. Like I said in my uh, storytime video previously this year, I think the show Batman the Animated Series really gave a grasp on a good side to cope with mental illness, depression, social anxiety, the Batman side of it, the Bat family, and then there's the toxic side, the Joker, Bane. Bane represented the toxic illness of doing drugs to cope with your mental illness. Joker coping with hurting people, damaging people, getting a kick out of it, coping with it, using that as a coping tool. Um, Ivy demonstrating that toxicity of pollution, fighting against it, how there's wrongs and then there's rights of it. There's also a beautiful LGBTQ representation with Harley Quinn in it, which I don't know what was represented now, but back then maybe, I don't know. But anyway, there's such beautiful sides to both mental illness, fighting and coping with it, versus toxating and hurting people. And that's what the Batman's animated series demonstrated beautifully. And now sometimes the system that is supposed to help people with mental illness can be corrupt. Like that one episode where Dr. Crane, who was the scarecrow, was this corrupt man who held people by showing fear, by demonstrating fear. and there was and he put Batman in Arkham Asylum in this episode, and I was binge watching it yesterday, and it is beautifully told in mental health perspective that when you're helping people, there's a right side and a bad side, and there's also a corruption side to the system that's supposed to help mental illness, like I demonstrated in my previous story. That's why I love the Batman, and that's why I was all about previously in my other video why Disney should have the rights and buys for the Batman series that was supposed to come out, but the Warner Brothers botched it, was giving it sell to other companies, and why I think Hulu and Disney can do a beautiful representation of what the previous Batman animated series did in the Batman series. I mean, Kevin Conroy did an amazing, beautiful job, and he was openly gay. He even had a father, an abusive father, like me. Except mine didn't drink growing up, and his was, and his father was homophobic, but he was openly gay, and he loved his husband, his loving husband. He battled cancer, which I grew up with a lot of people doing. They battled cancer and they passed away. My grandma, my father's mom, um, my dog Ranger. Yeah, I had a lot of people actually. Boy. But yeah, and so I'm not also saying my sincerest grievance to the families, but I'm also demonstrating how beautifully mental illness was representation beautifully in the Batman animated series. So thank you, Kevin Conroy, for being such a beautifully openly gay representation of the Batman. This is your Corey Dreamer, signing off.